Hey, you right there, Dumpling?
Doing well. How are you,
Yeah,
Riz?
really well, thank you. How's your day been?
Pretty good day. It's Tuesday, so of course it's good. We love Tuesdays. I think in UK it's Tuesday in it.
Yeah, basically. TCT, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing okay. How's
Well,
everyone?
okay sounds morbid.
I felt better. I'm a little under the weather, but
Mate, you need
I'm
some
getting through it.
ginger, ginger syrup, right? Boil like as much ginger as you can get down to a thin, like thick gel, and then mix it in with some lemon juice and some honey, and it'll make you cry, but it'll help you so much. Adam, how you been? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I'm doing well, doing well. Just trying to keep busy. That's all.
Yeah, what have you been up to today?
Today just been working on some summon organizational docs. I also have been trying to work a little bit on my syllabus for the class I'm teaching in the fall. Need to get that done so that when students show up, they have something to learn. So yeah, you heard it here first.
Congratulations, Adam. We owe that to you. Really excited for you.
Thank you, thank you. It's nice to have a position, a couple shiny positions with the university. So that's fun, a lot of fun.
Maybe we will surprise you one day with a Cardano gang of your students and ask you some tough questions.
If I ever come to class and find like 35 people and a husky sitting in the back, I might just turn around and leave.
Tommy, Crypto 6. Where does the 6 come from? Is it necessary?
No, thank you, Reese. It's good to be here. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. Yeah, so I'm actually just outside of Toronto area because of the 416 area code. So yeah, that's kind of the inside thing because when I first tried to, I guess, get that handle, it was taken, so I had to pick a number. And so I figured that one sounded good at the time.
I missed all of that because you actually broke up right at the important bit. I just got the so that's why basically at the end.
It 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 could be similar to my GitHub issue. Um, my GitHub handle is TCT was taken, so I'm assuming it's a similar issue.
I'm lucky because although there are a lot of Reese's around, not a lot of people spell it properly. So there's a good chance that I can get my name spelled appropriately. Terry, how are you doing? Good to see you here as well.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Short and sweet, love it. What's been going on?
Not too much, just been brushing up a little bit on DAOs. Yeah, they've got some really interesting stuff on what is it, on the Summons platform, and I guess some really interesting synergies between the other DAOs. That's flown within the ecosystem. So yeah, just looking to I guess ask questions about that.
And where are you hiding right now?
Hiding in Surrey in the UK.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
mate. Anytime you come into London, let me know. Go for a coffee or something.
Well, I'm around those areas.
All right. Well, let's sort it out. Cardano friends in real life. Happy days.
Terry, I have to ask you, what day is it today? Can you remind us?
Okay. I don't know if today is any particular special day other than Tuesday. So yeah, Bullish, tell me what day is it today?
It's Dumpling! I thought you would say Tuesday.
Tuesday, innit?
Yes,
Dumpling. I thought that's what you're after.
yeah, it's Tuesday.
Right. I was about to tease you about the British accent because I think I saw some Americans, they got really confused about the UK road. They said, what's a dual carriageway? Like jewelry, dual carriageway. It's just the way the British say dual carriageway. Sounds really funny. Tuesday, innit?
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
it it does, but like the Americans say pants, and I can't get my head around that. Trousers just sound much better.
That's all fine, but I just want to know where the hell the F is in Lieutenant.
Sounds like we're getting warmed up. Thank you everybody for coming back to a Dumpling Dungeon. We haven't had that for ages, have we, Riz? Getting excited about it, a bit nervous too.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm looking forward to this, though. I know a lot of these people, so I won't feel bad if I berate them a little bit.
Sounds good. That's why we have you. He's the muscle, as you can see. And we forgot to say hi to Zygomeb. Zygomeb, how are you? And thanks for coming.
Hello. I'm not sure if can you even hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. It's showing me to myself as a listener. I suppose that's good because I'll be doing a lot of listening to you guys. Hopefully you'll be giving me a lot of insight with what you plan to do. I have a couple pre-prepared questions. Let's just see what others come up with first, though. Happy to be here in the Dumpling Dungeon, as in Dumpling Dungeon, but Dumpling Dungeon.
I wasn't sure if that was
Got
an
it.
accident.
It's not an accident. It's a very shitty joke.
Very
Thank you.
smart. Thank you. Right, let's get started. So quickly about the agenda. We're going to start with a brief introduction from Summon team about their project, covering the most important aspects of the project. And then I will ask a few basic questions because I'm very curious about DAOs. Everybody's building DAO these days. I guess in a few months' time, your local Chinese restaurant will call themselves a DAO, but not sure if they can count as a DAO. So here I want to have more insight from Summon team and ADAO team telling us what they think is a DAO. And then we will move on to the questions of the judges. We have Zygomep and we have Terry, allegedly very specialized in DAOs, or at least have very good knowledge about DAOs. Terry, why are you laughing? We're counting on you. And then finally, the team will have the opportunity to elaborate and explain more about their project. Let's get started then. I don't know who gave Husky the speaker rights. Husky, you try to be Linda, but we know you're a Husky, so don't come in and pee on our carpets. We will yell at you. Let's get started then. Summon team, could you please tell us about your project?
Yeah, I can start off. So really, the Summon ecosystem emerged from within ADAO, quite similarly to how ADAO emerged from Cardano. Last year, in November, once Plutus was implemented, there was a group of us, mostly researchers, people who were, participating in DAOs, building DAOs on other blockchains, really trying to figure out how do we build DAOs on Cardano. So that's how we all originally came together. Back in November, we got together and we put a very simple contract on chain that allowed us to govern what was inside that contract. Riley could probably get into the more technical details, but from there, it really just exploded. It went from these about 8 original members to just thousands of people in the Discord, well over 24 people contributing every day to, really researching and figuring out what was exactly needed in order to work in this, decentralized and trustless way that all these projects were trying to work in. So that's how it really started. We were, gratefully asked to help on what's called Agora, which is a set of smart contracts that allow for this, token or decentralized governance, protocol governance. And from there, it just took off. We amassed a large GitHub full of open source repositories. We started building open source dApps and really just forming, relationships with all these other ecosystem projects because they all wanted and were building some type of governance for their projects. So ADAO being a pure on-chain entity, doesn't have a CEO, it doesn't have a legal jurisdiction. It is just what we call a nonprofit public goods DAO. We incentivize and contribute to open source work, and from there, like I said, we amassed so much of this. We decided to develop a whole ecosystem around it in order to start building products, or in this case, a platform around a lot of that open source work. So that's how Summon came to be. And right now, that team consists of really all the core contributors to ADAO and even more advisors from a lot of other ecosystem projects. And that's how it all started. That's sort of in a nutshell where we started and where we are today. And that's what we're continuing to build out with Summon.
Thank you, TCT. Does anybody else from the team have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of like speaking to the platform a bit, we want to make sure that there's a lot of options for a variety of types of DAOs. I think a lot of people are already familiar with us talking about Agora and sort of the potential of that. And I think that there are going to be a number of different standards that sort of arise in the near future, some of them driven by the Summon platform team and some of them from outside of the team. But we definitely want to be as inclusive to as many types of DAOs as possible. And additionally, we want to have access to a variety of different types of DeFi for DAOs.
Yeah, and if I could add in too, we generally speaking are trying to provide tools for sovereign governance and treasury management to a certain degree. And we're individuals that have kind of come together in this kind of decentralized world, and it's been an interesting journey how we've come like such a long way from just meeting in a Twitter space to actually now, not just building on Cardano, but building for Cardano. And it's very special that way. And, I think being here today is part of that process. Getting that constructive feedback from the community is part of that process, that peer review. So we're grateful to be here. And so that's the other thing I just wanted to add in there.
Thank you. Let me start with a very high-level philosophical aspect, really trying to learn. What is DAO in your definition? What is it supposed to do? Could you give us some examples? Because we all day talk about DAOs. Everybody say they're making a DAO, but what does that mean to us as an ordinary users of, for example, DeFi?
Yeah, I can start off. So I say quite frequently that word sort of hinders what we're doing because, a lot of times when we talk about or think about DAOs, we think about this, very elaborate system where there's no central team, central authority. So that's not always the case. That's what I think most of us want to see, especially with these protocols that claim to be user-owned or fully decentralized. But I think a lot of times what projects need and what we're also going to be providing are very simple, like Tommy said, treasury management tools like Roundtable, ways to manage a set of funds or some protocol parameters between multiple people. So I think we have to look at DAOs on a spectrum. I think a DAO can be anything from 3 to 5 people managing a small treasury for investments or NFTs to a complex lending protocol or decentralized exchange that is directly managed by all the token holders. So I think those are all quote unquote DAOs, and they all operate with some type of DAO tooling.
I'll add into it. One way to look at it is it could be any really group of like-minded individuals who are united by some sort of common vision, mission, whatever that may be for that community. And so that could be a wide spectrum, and the participation could be a wide spectrum of how
individuals participate, and what does participation mean in terms of their ability to change things, and how is consensus reached in terms of social consensus. Each community can have their own way to govern and to reach those things before any sort of on-chain effect occurs. And so it is a huge spectrum. And so like TCT said, it's the DAO word can be difficult to break down, but in its simplest form, we have the ability to now use the blockchain to have these protocols where we can self-govern protocols or treasuries and kind of go through that process in this kind of digital democracy. And so, just kind of add that in.
Thank you very much. Very curious about what you mentioned just now, Tommy. You said consensus. How do you reach consensus for Summon and also for ADAO? Like, how are you guys doing this? Are you voting in a small circle, or you said you have like 2,000 people in a Discord? You're getting everybody's opinion, or how are you doing this?
So right now, if it's all right if I grab this question, the way that we're handling this, because we are working on all of the infrastructure to make it possible for us to easily manage those decisions directly through on-chain governance using Agora. But I think that right now, yeah, we, like Tom said, we have a small or basic script that allows us to manage our treasury with sort of a smaller group, and we base that on the votes of the token holders currently held off-chain.
Yeah, and I'll just add, so there's a lot, right? So like a lot of times when we think about reaching consensus, we think about just votes. But as you said, there's a couple thousand, I think it's over 3,000 now members in the Discord, and I'm not sure how many token holders even. So before that vote even takes place, there's a lot that goes into reaching consensus. And I think how we've been able to most effectively do that is really through transparency. It's through things like this, having open meetings. We hold 2 open meetings every week, plus quite a few more that the individual sub-DAOs or working groups hold. And through those discussions and debates and discourse, that I feel is where consensus is best reached. It's through this social layer. And then, the voting and effects are really what take place to solidify that. So I think it's really important in these DAOs and these projects, communities, that open discourse, that you have a clear path for that, right? And a clear way of doing that, because I think that's what makes for good governance, is a lot of discussion, a lot of transparency, and then using the contracts or the votes to actually, solidify that on chain.
So it sounds like you're hosting debates, conversations, and you promote transparency. They seem means to an end to me, facilitating your ultimate goal, which is voting and consensus. So when it comes to the actual voting, how are you counting the votes? Is it by everybody has the same power of votes as long as they're in Discord, or if you're more engaged, you have more voting power, like the more social aspect of this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that could be different for all DAOs. In ADAO particularly, it's 1 token, 1 vote. So there are 100 million ADAO tokens. Those are given out for contributions to the open source work and the betterment of ADAO and DAOs on Cardano. So each one of those tokens equals 1 vote. Although, like you said, there are some projects I can think of and some instances where that might not be the best method, right? You'll want a more 1 person, 1 vote system, or maybe some kind of reputation system on top of those tokens. So that's all possible. And I think depending on the mission of this, project, these intentions, is how we decide sort of which one of those methods or combinations to go with.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like one person, one vote and reputational system. There's no final answer, right? You're experimenting, you're trying different variations and maybe combinations. Maybe that's what DAO is. That's what I'm thinking in the top of my head. If a DAO comes out saying this is the answer, guys, one person, one vote, that's the most fair. Maybe that's a sign that it's not truly a DAO because they have this very rigid preset determination. What do you guys think?
I don't know if I would go so far as to say that that group wouldn't be a DAO, but I would say that um, it would be silly of them to claim that they've found the optimal DAO structure simply with a one token, one vote.
Right. I would say the same thing. One token, one vote, one person, one vote. I would think all of these things, um, you know, are going to always be evolving, right? And it definitely comes back to those kind of first principles of like, okay, what are we actually trying to do here? And I think that's always really important.
Yeah, what I really liked about you said earlier is you have people, thousands of people contributing every day and doing researches. I believe that's one of the key aspects of DAO because it's ever evolving and it's so new. So we don't have the answer and we don't need to have it now. Getting ready to hand the mic over to the judges, but right before that, I do want to ask one very interesting question that's been haunting me for a long time. It's the regulatory aspect of DAOs. I used to think DAOs are pretty pointless because how are they recognized in a legal system and even in different countries? Why do we need them? But it sounds like the Summon project, you guys are figuring things out in a very good way. You have the Summon Association. The seat is it's registered in Zug, Switzerland. As an organization in a Swiss jurisdiction, the Salmon Association benefits from the best defined regulatory framework for digital assets in the world. So I can understand the regulatory framework is very mature for digital assets, but how about when it comes to DAO? Do they also have a very clear advantage there? And how are they defining DAO in their jurisdiction?
Hey, I can speak to this if you guys can hear me. I'm getting massively rugged, so I'll apologize, and you can yell at me if this is garble. Um, so the issue of regulation is really hard for DAOs because this is something that is still in formation. It's a huge gray area, and we just don't know what's going on yet. Um, so one of the biggest things is that if you are trying to do work together with another person without having some sort of a legal framework in place, you're just going to be considered a general partnership in general by most legal jurisdictions. So if Tom and Riley and I are doing things together and we don't have some sort of a organization such as the Summit Association, then they would consider the three of us to be just general partners, and anything that any one of us did be um, that would be of consequence, and maybe one of us would screw something up, would the others would be accountable for it. So that's why you have things like LLCs, you have corporations and associations and foundations, so that you can have what's called legal personhood for your organization. Now, DAOs are a bit different because they get into like a protocol level where you have this massive organization that is so big that you can't really say that there's a manager in charge of it or that there's a certain number of people who are running it. Uh, but how does that interact with other organizations in the physical world? Well, in the case of ADAO, ADAO doesn't try to do things like provide paychecks to people, be an employer, or sell tokens. So for ADAO, we've decided that we're just going to be an on-chain DAO, and it's just basically it's just a club where people can come and contribute to open source repositories. And if they contribute to those open source repositories, they get some tokens that give them a say in what the organization does, and it's a community. And so that works for us because for ADAO, when we first formed that, we didn't have any plans to open bank accounts or anything like that. But then when we wanted to go further and say, well, now how can we make a platform out of this? How can we make it so that people can come to a website that we've established, use software that we've that we've created and defined, and sort of like start commercializing on this open source software, not for the purpose, of trying to suck all the money out of it, but just so that we can pay for the infrastructure and do everything we can to keep developing it. We decided we needed to make sure that we had a physical company. So the Summit Association is a legal entity in Switzerland. We've worked with Dr. Sothi Coleman, one of the founders of Genius Yield, and he's been a great partner with us to make sure that we get this all set up according to the laws of Switzerland. And then we've also been developing, setting up the developmental side with Summit Labs to be sure that we can do this all properly. And when it comes to DAOs, we want to try to offer what we're calling legal wrapper templates. So if you come to Summon, our goal is to have like a library of these contracts and frameworks that you could say, I want my DAO. Maybe you decide you want to have a legal wrapper for your DAO because you want to have an NFT project. And you think that Wyoming is going to be a good framework because you're a US person and you know that Wyoming has a DAO LLC law. You can look at some of the templates we're going to provide of what a DAO LLC would look like in Wyoming. And we're not going to tell you that it's ready to go off the shelf. So definitely, talk to your own legal counsel, but you can use this sort of template as a way to get started. And maybe we'll have one for Switzerland, maybe we'll have one for other jurisdictions, and you can sort of decide like what jurisdiction will best fit my DAO, and do I want it to have this sort of legal personhood because I want to do some business with the physical world.
Thanks, Adam. Really important point you brought up is the legal personhood. I'm very ignorant in this area, so in what circumstance do you need that in your DAO? I suppose there's some kind of a threshold. If you do not touch that, you can remain as sort of a community without forming an LLC or having a legal personhood. Where's the line drawn in, for example, Switzerland or in the US?
Yeah, basically, if you want to have a bank account, if you want to make legal contracts with people, most people and organizations probably wouldn't want to have a legal contract with a DAO unless the DAO had some sort of a legal wrapper that they knew that they could work with you in a regulated fashion, because they are under regulations for their jurisdiction, so they want to make sure that the DAO that they are working with has some sort of a regulatory framework as well. As far as what an unregulated DAO looks like, that's a very gray area too. In general, if organizations are making money, there's going to be a government out there that wants a piece of it. And so whether you say that we're a large enough ecosystem that every person in this ecosystem is an independent agent, that's what like Uniswap does, and what like a lot of the other big DAOs do. That's where they say, we're not trying to be a regulated entity. We want the participants to report their taxes and figure it out with their legal jurisdictions instead. But there are other cases where, like on Ethereum, there's you have a whole series of DAOs that all register under Delaware's laws, because like Flamingo DAO, because they say like, hey, we can use the certainty of Delaware's LLC framework to set up our DAOs and operate that way. So it's just all depends on what you want to do and how you want to do business.
That's very interesting and useful. I'm learning so much from you guys already. So thank you, TCT, Riley, Adam, Tommy, and I think he got rugged. But now we are going to hand the stage over to the judges. For the organization of this conversation, let's start with Terry and Zygomap. Let's try to keep the format so people don't keep talking over each other, and feel free to utilize the hands up button so we know who to cue next, especially if you want to jump into the conversation. So Terry, welcome. Thanks for your patience. What questions do you have for us?
Yeah, I've actually got quite a few, and they kind of loosely flow into each other as well. So I mean, if you want to jump in and ask questions, or just let me ask them, and then I'll hand it over to someone in a few minutes. We can just do that. We'll do what works. Right. Yeah, guys. Hey, thanks for answering these questions. You you have a lot of visibility within the community, so I appreciate this. Yeah. So yeah, to get to it, yeah, can you give us some context because there's been a few projects that you've worked on, such as Agora and ADAO. Can you explain what makes them different, and also how they how they complement each other?
Yeah, Riley, do you want to start this one?
Sorry, yeah, I've been actually kind of half focused on working on some code. What was the question? I'm so sorry.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Had to do that. You need to be focused in a dungeon.
Or else, yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, my question was, yeah, just the context. So you guys have worked on Agora and ADAO. So what makes Agora and ADAO different from Summons, and how do they complement each other?
Yeah, of course. So Agora is a suite of governance contracts or scripts for Cardano so that you can do token-weighted voting in a way where users stake their tokens, and then they can participate in smart contract voting where one token is equivalent to one vote. Proposals can be created and leveraged to you know, have these effects that are sort of enacted automatically, permissionlessly, trustlessly, as soon as the votes that are needed have sort of occurred and that phase is passed for a given proposal. So it's basically, as Tom has said many times, similar to what Governor Bravo is over on Ethereum. That's the compound system of governance, and Summon is going to allow for users to easily access Agora because we have a lot of infrastructure that we've built around it. Like I said, Agora is just the on-chain contracts. But additionally, we're going to be allowing users to access other forms of DAOs as different standards emerge, and we're going to be pushing our own standards to allow for DAOs to exist in the way that we anticipate the most demand for. So we're doing our best to not only have Agora as an available type of DAO standard, but maybe groups want to leverage native script multisigs, and we're going to have an interface for that built directly into Summon, as well as all of the required infrastructure and interfaces to interact with DeFi. And we're going to be trying to keep up with as much of the DeFi that sort of comes online in Cardano as we can. Shout out to Max, actually. Really excited about Optim.
Okay, yeah, great. Next, I'm going to ask, so what unique, what like novel stuff and technology from the Cardano chain are you leveraging that you can't yet you don't see on other chains such as Ethereum 2.0 or Ethereum?
I think that, in Ethereum, most DAOs aren't leveraging any sort of actual contracts that allow for automatic execution of proposals, whether that be modifications of parameters for different DeFi systems, or, and I know Max is going to hate this, but maybe updating scripts for something, right? If that's directly encoded into a proposal, then that proposal could, once passed, actually have the effects that were encoded into it applied automatically. In Ethereum, they just don't do this, and it's because of their fees. It's not actually because they can't do it. It's just not practical to do it for a great majority of organizations that have formed there. So you see that in a lot of other ecosystems, they have sort of just gone with the same pattern that Ethereum has, and a lot of DAOs in a variety of ecosystems just use multisigs. And for some DAOs, there's nothing wrong with that. I think especially for protocols, and if you're going to have a DAO-driven protocol, it ought to be on-chain voting. And I think that if you're going to use some sort of snapshot voting, it should be with zero-knowledge proofs. There needs to be enforceability, and there's not enough of it on Ethereum. I think that's one of the benefits of Cardano and what we're going to have here.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was going to ask about Treasury, about your Treasury. So, but when it comes to transaction fees with summons, does a small percentage of that go into Treasury and in a sustainable way?
Sorry?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was asking about a treasury. Does summons have a treasury, such as each transaction will have like, what is it, a small fee attached to it, like we have in Catalyst, that will fund a treasury that's sustainable in the long term?
I think that the potential for this is something that I need to tread carefully around. Maybe Adam has some words he wants to say about it, but the future of the Summon platform is governable by the token holders.
Yeah, so there will be some transaction fees. We're still figuring that all out. The purpose of transaction fees, of course, are to help ensure that we are able to fund the development of the system going forward. But as you know, we have various models that we're trying to think about with that in regards to also our summon tokens that are going to be used to govern the platform. So there's going to be certain parameters that we can set with the summon tokens. Those are still a little bit in flux. So we aren't making any promises on what those are going to look like. But we're going to do our best to make sure that the fees are going to be very reasonable, that the summon token holders are able to use those tokens to have access to the system in a way that gives them a voice in the system and in a way to help set the parameters of the system moving forward to ensure the ongoing success of the system.
Okay, yeah, great. I hope you guys don't mind. I've got like 7 more questions I can just quickly fly through. The next one, what is it? You just have to bear with me because this is probably a little bit more complex. So, Summons allows users, to create DAOs. It also allows DAOs to manage other DAOs via control and stake and interoperability, and they can even interact with DeFi systems in various contexts. So do you see some systemic risk with this complexity, with DAOs managing DAOs?
I think that the biggest issue around DAOs managing DAOs is that any DAO with a child DAO must have a shorter period for its proposals for like the draft phase, the voting phase, the execution phase, all of those sort of phases and the time periods that are allotted for them need to be carefully considered from parent to child DAO, and you would not be able to necessarily have sort of like a effective circular ownership because of the fact that one DAO wouldn't be able to vote quickly enough to execute a vote. Or does that make sense? You wouldn't be able to vote to apply a vote quickly enough. So by the time that your proposal went through to vote on another proposal, that other proposal would have already finished. And so I think that we're exploring a variety of structures for DAOs. And as I said, I think there will be different standards that emerge over time, but I'm actually very excited about the potential for DAOs to have a stake in other DAOs. I think it's just something that needs to be carefully considered.
Okay, great. Yeah. Will all the code that you're writing for Summons, will it all be open source?
A great majority of the code that we write for Summon will be open sourced. I think that to say that all of it will be, I'm not 100% sure. There's definitely a good chance that it will all be open sourced. It will definitely not all be open sourced as soon as it's live, so there will always be at least some piece, probably the newest parts of the platform that are not open source to remain competitive in the market.
Okay, great.
Well, and if I could just add, and Riley can correct me, but the contracts themselves will be always open source.
Kerry, just before we jump over to your last couple of questions, Zygomeb's been waiting patiently. I don't know if he had something to add to one of the conversations that have already happened. And also, welcome QA We'll get to you. Sorry, blimey, my word's broken. We'll get to you in a second.
Yeah, I do have a few questions to the pinpoint and iterate, because some of the questions Terry brought up, I have follow-ups too, which dig in more to a core issue. But like I said, I would like to say I'm friends with the people at ADAO, and I trust your vision. What you have said here does ring true with what I believe. However, I'm going to be mean. And if I can, I must note that there is a very ambiguous and frankly weird situation between ADAO and Summon. When you say we, do you represent ADAO or do you represent Summon? Why are there two tokens? Which one does actually govern Summon? If ADAO votes that the Agora system should be changed, that obviously does impact Summon. Does now Summon automatically get redirected? Situations like that is why you shouldn't have two tokens that are able to influence one system in that direct way.
So ADAO tokens do not interact with the Summon DAO directly. ADAO will be granted a large amount of Summon tokens, and there may be some direct governance, like I said, if there's enough consideration. I think one of the primary benefits of that for ADAO is that ADAO can elect a representative at the Summon Association sort of meetings, and that person or legal entity would be represented. So we intend to have the ADAO Foundation be that representative. But I understand where you're coming from for sure. And just to be clear, the primary sort of thought process here has been these ADAO tokens that were distributed have been distributed purely based on merit and contribution, and they'll continue to be. But we definitely wanted to build sort of a commercializationable, I don't even know if that's a word. We wanted to commercialize on our efforts, and we wanted to continue to be able to do this over the long term. To be quite frank with you, I just moved in with my parents again because I'm in a position where that's what I need to do. And if I were to continue just doing ADAO, I would never move back out of my parents' house. So that's not what I want, right? I think having ADAO be the biggest stakeholder in Summon was kind of the best way for us to manage the situation. And to be clear, once again, we definitely don't have any direct interaction between the Summon DAO and ADAO with regards to the token. So they are two separate DAOs.
Naturally, I do understand the commercial nature of the product, and the dichotomy between the two is definitely something that's going to be, well, plaguing you throughout the following months, years, time. So if there could be a guideline, clear boundaries between the two, what is not, what shouldn't be, what should not, and any sort of edge case scenarios that could pop up, that would be greatly appreciated for providing clarity and transparency to those who may purchase.
Absolutely, I can speak to that. I don't see this as going to be something that's going to be plaguing us at all. ADAO is a community that is devoted to the development of open source repositories. And when we got together, we said we want to make open source repositories that anybody can take, anybody can build on, and be able to use them for their own DAOs. And ADAO has been just thrilling to work with because of that. And that's why we built the roundtable DApp for people to have a multi-sig treasury. That's why we got involved with Agora. That's why we have done everything we've done. And that's why we have this, you could call it a spin-off project of Summon. And so when PCT and Riley and Tommy and Matt and I are up here right now talking, we are actually representing Summon. And ADAO will have a controlling a very large stake in Summon because we are dedicated to granting the DAO a large portion of Summon tokens. But we also recognize that there's going to be a lot of other DAOs that want to use the Summon platform. And they also deserve the opportunity to obtain Summon tokens and to have a say in the way the Summon platform is run as well. And so the Summon platform is going to be, you know, like, I don't want to say bigger than ADAO, but it's going to be reciprocal with ADAO in a lot of ways, but also reciprocal with other DAOs and in all of Cardano and beyond. Hopefully, when we can also move, you know, like move to Ergo and look at other chains as ways that we can expand this effort to bring DAO tooling and interconnectedness across our ecosystem.
That was awesome. And just real quick, what I also just want to add and make clearly is that you know, any entity, any company can use the ADAO open source repositories in the exact same way that Summon is using them.
Very nice. Follow-up. Business model. There's been discussion of it, how there may or may not be fees attached to treasury transactions. This goes back to an original question I had, but didn't ask yet. What is the business model specifically of Summon, and how do you plan to monetize your efforts? Furthermore, how does a DAO that gets originally spinned up through Summon move forward in the future? Are there any risks associated with Summon being no longer available? What if the terms of service change through a vote and now they are no longer amenable to what the sub-DAO spinned up through Summon believes? What if there is a vote with the Summon tokens that raise the fees to, say, 100%? This would be possible under your framework. How would you even prevent it? And if it is even possible to do so? Those corner cases, of course, are very, well, corner case. However, an increase from 5 to, say, 10 would already be on the verge of causing quite a lot of projects to reconsider their decision of spinning their project through Summon. And, you know, I was already mentioned about the script upgradability problem, and you guys know I fucking hate that. This is precisely why, because of the degree of change it allows.
And I think that that's valid, and I also am under the impression that it's, you know, with a little bit of consideration, and this doesn't even take a whole lot, you can obviously make it so that there are boundaries as to what is and is not governable. And even that could be something that is, say, voted upon by the Summon Association prior to implementation or deployment, so that, for example, you know, the Summon Association has assembled and sort of decided, the token holders included, obviously, so this is the decision being made by this sort of rational group, and then once on chain, there's no concern of that, because there are certain boundaries that have been put in place for the governable considerations. I think that I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with the sentiment of concern, but I think that it's all sort of non-issue as long as there's consideration for those topics.
Well, as long as there's an on-chain vote that is just able to be passed via one token, one vote measure, that's going to be a problem.
But again, it's not necessarily a problem if you're saying that you don't have script updatability. You have some UTXO that represents script parameters with a datum that has those parameters, and then you say that the datum can be updated within certain boundaries for each of those parameters, so long as the general authority token from Agora is burnt in that transaction, or the whatever your measure of being able to complete an action is through governance. But again, it's something that I think is sort of a non-issue as long as careful considerations are made.
Sorry, Matt.
Devil's advocate on my... sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if I could just jump the line. I know Matt wants to respond to this too, but if I can say something real quick before Matt. one thing that we are committed to is making sure that we are not going to trap you within our ecosystem. We are going to make it so that if you spin up a DAO on Summon, you can take that DAO, you can fork Summon, you can run it yourself, and you will have that power. So if someone were to raise its fees to 100%, someone else would come along and just give 98% fees, and everyone would move there.
Yeah, and we're definitely not making it so that there's any sort of fees built into the on-chain code outside of maybe if we have sort of risk mitigation and automation built in, then upon deployment there would be those fees in the parameterization, but even then people would be able to relatively easily go and deploy those contracts themselves with a different set of fees. So as Adam said, we do want to make sure that this is something we're building for Cardano. We're not just building on Cardano.
Yeah, just to kind of, I agree with all that. One thing worth mentioning is that a lot of these potential issues are inherent to decentralized, sorry, losing my voice, inherent to decentralized protocols generally, right? And DAOs and DeFi protocols, even in kind of the two-dimensional world with public companies, a lot of the decisions of a public company and the services it offers are subject to, shareholder vote, for instance, or clubs. It's just you have to kind of expect that people are rational actors and will do what's in their best interest, and really Summon is going to be a community of token holders and DAOs and members of the Summon Association, and it's going to be in everyone's best interest not to jack fees up so high that no one wants to use it, because a lot of the governance token holders will be users of the platform because they're utility and governance tokens that people they'll be most valuable to the people who are really using the platform. So you could say the opposite. There might be an incentive to keep the fees down, below what makes it, worth operating such a platform or maintaining it. So I don't think that it's, these are challenges or issues unique to Summon. I think a lot of these things are just things that come along with decentralization, and you have to navigate them, and it hasn't really been a problem in most other ecosystems. So I don't expect that we'll have any issues.
Awesome. One thing, you have mentioned that you have to assume that people will be rational actors. I personally disagree here due to the very absurdist nature of our reality of being in a decentralized and fully virtual world. People will act how they believe they want to act, or not at all, because they are another DAO that holds a stake and that they want to do something potentially malicious or force themselves into game theoretic something blah blah scenario. Regardless, I want to play a devil's advocate on my previous point of disallowing script upgrades. Why should someone go through the Summon platform if you're not going to allow any upgrade, given that you want to constrain it to certain parameters?
I think that having systems within the Summon platform constrained to certain parameters versus having things constrained maybe in other people's DAOs, that's something where I think the user is really going to be making those decisions. And like I said, we want to offer sort of as many standards as we can within reason. I think that we don't want to tell people that they can't have script updatability, but we also don't want to tell people that that's the right decision, because I don't think that that's for us to say in someone else's system design, I guess, is kind of
in someone
my thought
else's,
process.
yes, but in
Right.
Summon's.
Right. Why would someone use our system if it had limited updatability? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, because they may decide that further along the line, they may want something from you. And that something requires an update of the script. What if further down the line there's another governance system that is fundamentally somehow incompatible with the way Agora works, and now through your script upgrades protocol you are no longer able to express that change?
That would be unfortunate for the Summon DAO, and I think that, as we reach closer and closer to deployment of the Summon DAO on mainnet, we need to be considerate of different topics such as that. But I think that when it comes to the platform itself, it's not necessarily relevant because, again, the platform is not going to be constraining anybody to any system. So if someone comes and creates an Agora-based DAO and maybe there's no updatability in their system design, and then later they decide that they want it, that's kind of a hard one to fix, because if you decide it when you're designing your own system. But the big thing is we want to have different things available within the platform. So the platform will constantly be changing. We're going to be building on it, and the Summon Association will be managing the development of the platform. And as it was kind of stated before, token holders, including DAOs, if they'd like to sort of vote on a representative for their tokens held, will be recognized at the Summon Association assembly meetings. So that's sort of our way of managing this and navigating this type of stuff at this time. It kind of goes back to what Dumpling was asking about when it came to DAOs and the legal system. And it comes down to, I think, the reason we've gone this way, it comes down to the fact that we have so many people that aren't technical, but are academics and have sort of an interest in decentralization. Adam has really pushed us, Matt has really pushed us in sort of this direction where I think that we're trying to delegate to on-chain governance for our own DAO what makes sense, and have what makes sense to be in sort of this association legal model be there. So we're delegating different parts of governance to different parts of the system, and I think that the tokens held are representative of sort of power in both of those systems, the summon tokens, that is. The last thing I would add before kind of throwing it over to Adam is that, and shoot, I had one last thing I wanted to say.
Is it Adam or QADAO?
QADAO?
Yes, thank you. I'm primarily here out of interest in the concepts, the research, the educational aspects of what you're doing. It was very interesting to hear your preliminary discussion. A few weeks ago, I think I had lucky enough to meet with Nicholas Cerny. I'm not sure if he's part of your team. And you're putting in a preliminary discussion, I noticed a lot of themes that we were teasing out, particularly the semantic shift. The variety of ways a term like DAOs or decentralization can be used or interpreted. And I was picking up on some of the language you're using, like even though that you are, for intents and purposes in a decentralized environment, you used a language like common vision, like-minded. So even though it is a DAO, where's the room for dissent in general or fragmentation? You also refer to, or others have referred to, optional structures, which seems to contradict the whole idea of decentralization. So is our DAOs discrete autonomous organizations or decentralized autonomous organizations? So it's great to hear that you're engaging with the academic side of this, because there's a lot of observations, and I'll just leave it briefly as here, because I believe brevity is good, and that is decentralization parasitic on centralized standards and protocols. And this is particularly in relation to, for example, the absence of regulation, the fact that you are relying on common visions and like-minded people means that you are decentralized, but you are relying on a centralized protocol, if you were, a social protocol. Thank you.
I guess I can get started. So first, glad you got a chance to talk with Nicholas. He's one of the founding core members of ADAO, and he's a very valued member of that DAO. He's not one of the core members of Summon, but we always look to him and the other members of ADAO for guidance as we're building out Summon.
Oh, of course. Sorry for that. Sorry for that.
Oh, no, it's all good. Yeah. In regards to like education and some of that work, both Summon and ADAO are being active with the Cardano DAO Alliance. It's something that we're really dedicated to make sure that we can be part of this broader ecosystem of DAOs in Cardano, of people working in this space. And that's something that we really want to see as a cross-pollination of ideas, and something that we can see as a way that everybody can build standards together and really exchange ideas, if that's a good way to put it. Now, in regards to centralization and decentralization, I got a little lost there in the middle, I'll admit, but I'll just say that I think every system has points of centralization. And the question is, where are your points of centralization, and what are the sacrifices you're willing to make to either avoid them or accept them? With the Summon platform, we realized that some of the points of centralization is that we need to have this legal association, this legal, to make it happen so that it can be in the physical world and doing what we want it to do. Another point of centralization is the servers and the fact that everybody's going to be coming to a common platform. But that allows for a decentralized ecosystem of independent DAOs to be coming together. And the more independent DAOs we have on Cardano and across the blockchain ecosystem, the more powerful we become as a decentralized world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks for that, Adam. If I can just quickly respond to that. I mean, I think that's an interesting observation, that actually fragmentation so you need more DAOs, not one big DAO. So one big DAO may be problematic here because if you have one big DAO, you might be too reliant on centralization. So it's great that you're responding to these issues and are aware of them, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
I was just going to add as well, and this is actually what I had forgotten previously. The Summon platform, while we've been considerate in structuring our sort of legal model to be accommodating for Web3, we also want to make it so that the groups that are coming to our platform can get set up in that way, or in whatever way they'd like to. We're going to be offering a number of different jurisdictional regulatory compliance templates, and in addition to this, we are going to be working with other groups, hopefully doing referrals to get people to the right sort of general counsel if they would like to create sort of a legal embodiment of their on-chain organization to allow for interaction with traditional systems.
Yeah, and just to kind of add on some of these points, I would just posit that there's a lot of diversity in views and opinions and perspectives and backgrounds and experiences between the people in ADAO and even the team behind Summon, which there's a lot of overlap, obviously. And I would say that it'd be hard to characterize ADAO is centralized just based upon how much debate and discourse and disagreement there is, respectfully. Like we all, people are really respectful and disagreeing, but it's not like this groupthink mentality, and it's not just like a few people making all the decisions. It really is like this forum for ideas and discussion and debate. So anyone, and it's also open source, so anyone who's listening right now and wants to get involved in a DAO on Cardano, come join a DAO and plug in and it doesn't matter if you agree with people or not, but it's a diverse group and everyone's welcome.
That's great. I just love to say that I know when I was accused, I mean to accuse the ADAO of being centralised, and it's just more of a general challenge, if you like, of DAOs in general. And that kind of balance between the tension between the centralisation that you need to engage with, like the infrastructure and stuff like that, and the decentralisation that you can optimise. And clearly, ADAO are making a lot of efforts on the decentralisation side to recognise that. I sort of see, particularly on the open source side as well, which is going to be part and parcel of that, in terms also part of Cardano's roadmap. So absolutely.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for those observations. Now, definitely, there's a spectrum when it comes to decentralization and centralization, and what needs to be done. What are the tasks required to do that? And for us, it's kind of as a platform, we're trying to provide these tools for governance and treasury management. So ultimately, those communities can decide on their own, depending on what works best for them, and how they have to figure that out within themselves. And that there's a human process to that too. And with these tools, we're hoping that communities can do things like have their own community catalyst, for instance, and have these other innovation funds based on the community that they're kind of within. And so at a kind of higher level, it's trying to provide individuals and communities with the tools to be able to do those things.
Great. Thank you for the extra little bit of clarity there, Tommy. Tommy 6. Before we continue with the free-for-all, I just want to give Terry another chance to finish his questions because I know we cut him off a little bit early. So, Terry, back to you, mate.
Thank you, Stoic. You've been really patient as well. You haven't asked any questions yet. Anyway, so yeah, I just have two questions. One's about the community, and one's about the ISPO. Which is yeah, a good one to get around to. So, regarding the community, Summons is going to be like an umbrella DAO for smaller DAOs beneath it, and some of the core code is going to be pretty important to manage carefully and to implement. So I guess it's going to be held by signees with multi-sig. So what conversations have you had around how much community can have over control of those choices going forward?
Yeah, I think to be clear, we're not looking to be sort of this umbrella DAO necessarily. I think maybe we could have an option in the platform if people really want to donate to us some part of their governance tokens when creating a DAO. It's not like we want to prevent them from doing that, but that's definitely not our intention here. That's not part of our sort of model. So yeah, I think that if we have to cross a bridge like that, obviously we will, but I don't think that that's at all our intention with this.
Yeah, and if, real quick, Terry, if I can add, because Summon is a DAO operating system, right? When you create a DAO on Summon, you are not creating a DAO that is under or controlled by Summon or ADAO in any way whatsoever. I know there are some platforms that do that or are intending something like that, but that is not the case at all for Summon.
Yeah, that's why we say this is your DAO, and we're just a service. We're just like providing a platform that can give you the services to manage it, and that you can do with or without us. But we hope that you'll keep using the platform because we want to be the best platform there is for you to do your DAO activity.
And we're going to be constantly working on improvements for the platform to try and ensure that we are sort of the best platform to come to. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah. I think that's an important distinction to note is that I don't view Summon DAO as, it's more along the lines of decentralized governance and a DeFi protocol or any kind of similar decentralized protocol. It's really the operating system, and it just happens to be governed, by governance token holders. But ultimately, along with this operating system vision, as it develops out, we want to have all these kind of dApps and tool sets, tools that you can access, and customize your experience if they help your DAO's ability to operate or manage contribution, bounty payouts, things like that. There's unlimited kind of tools that would benefit DAOs, especially as this all evolves. So we want to keep this to be kind of the most advanced and cutting edge DAO operating system across all blockchain ecosystems. And we are really proud to kind of plant our flag, and represent Cardano in doing this. And no one else, out there that's existing with multi-chain integrations that are attempting this. It has what Summon, what we've already developed even, and we're going to keep it that way. So that's something that we don't want to control people's DAOs. We want to make, create an opportunity for people to operate DAOs with maximum flexibility. And, if they want to take their DAO elsewhere, it's going to be portable because we're just talking about smart contracts, and Summon is, an interface. So, yeah, it's all really, I think these are really important points to make. And yeah, at the end of the day, we do not want to control anyone's DAO, and you won't be seeing us do that.
Yeah, great. So here's my last question is about the ISPO, which is happening right now. And this actually kind of dips into the tokenomics of summons as well. So you're gonna have some private funding, I believe, but also you're gonna have some sale rounds as well as an ISPO. Can you firstly touch on what the prices are going to be per sale for the different sale rounds coming up in the future?
Well, I know that we've already established what the first sale round will be, and to be clear, these are measured in ADA. In order to access the sale, you'll go to the site that we provide, which pending is app.summonplatform.io. We may use /tokens at the end, but for the first sale, just that link, app.summonplatform.io, should work on the 15th. And basically, we're going to sell the first round at 0.05 ADA per token, and we're going to be selling 20 million tokens in that first round. And anybody who has one ADAO, one LQ, or one min can participate. The rounds after that, I believe we're going to probably jump up to 0.1 ADA per token, and we'll probably keep that constant across the rest of the rounds, but I can't say for sure. We haven't quite nailed that down. All that we've nailed down for sure is that the first one is going to be 0.05 ADA with that sort of 20 million number. It's going to go for 3 days or until sold out, and we'll have more information about the rest of the sales shortly. Regarding that's all I have to say. Tom?
I know what you were going to say. And it's sort of weird saying it because I've never heard another project say this, but we tend to do things a little differently than most projects. And that is in regards to the private round. So 10% of the summon tokens were dedicated to a private round. And we have done a lot of due diligence over the past few months, looking for not just any private investors, but one that actually aligns with what we're doing here, aligns with our ethos, aren't shark, venture capitalist firms. And up until this point, we have not found any that we align with. So at the moment, there has been no private sale of summon tokens. And I'm hoping that in the future, these public sales go well, support for the platform and the ISPO continues to be overwhelming, and that's not needed in the future.
Yeah, and I mean, just to kind of address that slightly more, I wanted to say that we've also discussed the potential of we'll see what happens. We're open to a variety of different things on that end, and we are still in the middle of conversations with a couple of different groups, but yeah, that's probably all that we have to say on that matter.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just one last detail. So when someone participates in the ISPO, yeah, could you give them the name of the ticker, and could you tell them how many tokens they could expect per ADA in rewards?
So it's going to be dependent upon, I mean, the amount of summon tokens that are being distributed per epoch through the ISPO is dependent upon the amount of ADA delegated to the ISPO. So we're distributing per epoch 1,000 summon tokens per 100K ADA delegation. Right now we have 1.45 million ADA delegated, so that would be the corresponding amount, I think 14.5 thousand, or maybe just 14,000, I guess would probably be the way that we do that. We are using the Maladex formula, and we're setting the lottery amount to 5%. So that's kind of the way that we're doing it. And we will have a calculator up soon. It's all based on live stake. The Maladex formula, that is based on live stake. So we'll have a calculator up soon and more information on that. But we are obviously, any stake that's going in right now will be earning in that way.
Thank you for
Yeah.
thanks for answering all these questions.
Actually, see if I could just jump in. So the ticker is ADAO, ADAO, and so if you're looking for a stake pool to delegate some of that stake towards, that's how you can earn those summon tokens. And after the so we've allocated these tokens to the stake or ISPO, and once those tokens are completed, the plan is to then have the ADAO stake pool go to the ADAO community so that they can continue with their open source development. And actually, I want to give a shout out to Reese from Stoic Pool, because he's been helping us out as our single pool operator. So big shout out to him. And this is kind of what it's all about, right? The strength of collaboration with community members and how we've been able to do this together. And it just really speaks to the power of that, to be able to figure out
Did
to
Tommy
get through
get
those things
rushed?
together.
Yes.
He's in
Sorry,
and out, isn't he? Thank you, Tommy. Zygomev, I'm going to pass it back over to you if you have any final questions. But quickly, I just want to give an honourable mention to our good friend Indigo James in the audience. We haven't seen you up here in a while, loitering. So I hope you're well, mate. And we'll go back to Zygomev now. Sorry about that.
No worries. Shout out to Larry as well. Question. With the token sale and ISPO ongoing, have you considered the potential problem that an ISPO may bring where the summon token, be considered a security?
That's a very good question. And what we've done is talk with some regulatory experts in Switzerland, which is the jurisdiction that the Summon Association was established in. And they basically told us that as long as we follow the model of the ISPO, where it is an airdrop, where people come, we're getting people's rewards, and then they come to the site and build a transaction, that we can avoid that being a problem for us. So we are following their advice in this matter, and we don't believe that this is going to be a security, because we're making sure we can do everything we can to have this certified as a utility token in the Swiss jurisdiction. So that's something that we've been very diligent about working with regulatory experts on.
That's great to hear. I personally am a little skeptical of the ISPO model and no KYC sale, given the probable problems that may bring with US based.
And I'll just say that I'll just say that we are being classified as utility token in Switzerland. So there may be differences in jurisdictions. So everybody should check with their own jurisdiction as to whether or not there is some clarity in the regulatory framework for your jurisdiction. There, for the ISPO, it seems like ISPOs haven't had as much regulatory problems, so people seem to be okay with those. So yet, that's correct. But I would definitely recommend you talk with your tax advisor if that's something that you feel you need to about it to make sure that it works for you in your particular situation. If it's a risk that you're willing to take, if there's any unclarity, and that also same thing, absolute same thing for our public sale. We will have some terms and conditions that lay out what our public sale is, and we need everybody to read through those and make sure that they understand how we're classified in Switzerland, and that they are agreeing to this certification if they want to participate.
Yeah, and just to kind of add on that, so you're touching on like a really huge legal kind of issue that's being resolved in the U.S. right now around, what is a security token and where are the boundaries between security tokens and utility tokens. And, I've got years of experience in this area of the law myself and have a pretty good idea of the current landscape of things. Here in the U.S., you see this Ripple case going on with the SEC. There's about to be a big similar case with Coinbase and the SEC. And, what basically is pretty apparent is that there's going to be regulation sooner than I think anyone thought around blockchain, the blockchain industry generally. And basically, we've engineered this and been really, really careful to make this a utility token. And we believe that Switzerland provides a really strong standard for what is a security token versus what is a utility token. And there's a few other varieties too. It's a similar regulatory scheme as Singapore has implemented. And it seems likely that some variation of these two models, that tokens based upon their attributes, appropriately, and have different kind of tracks to make, ensure compliance depending on which token classification you fall under. We think that if we do this, we follow Switzerland's regulatory model, there's a very high likelihood that once there's regulatory clarity in the U.S., which there isn't, we are of our own opinion that it's not a security token in the U.S., but that no one can say for sure because it hasn't been settled. So as Adam mentioned, part of the terms and conditions are you're going to have to, agree that you're not in the U.S. And it's not because this is a security. Any token could be deemed so, but just out of an abundance of caution. However, we do not feel that this is a security token because we've been very careful to design it as something that's not. And, if in the future and it's decentralized and out of our control and the governance token holders vote on some attribute that makes it a security, then that in decentralized protocols that are truly decentralized, that can't be stopped. But at that point, that I don't think could be the Summon team or ADAO or any part of the ecosystem, would be kind of liable for that because, unless legal jurisprudence evolves very rapidly and there's some change in the law. But like Adam said, consult your own legal and tax advisors, and we can't really figure out whether it's legal to participate in token sales, in every country in the world. So, that's kind of on the purchaser as well.
Glad to hear that you're taking every measure possible. I personally am not of the opinion that perhaps terms of service out Americans from participating may not be necessarily sufficient to guard against any legal action in the future regarding securities specifically. But let's put that behind us if we
Well,
can.
yeah, and just to add, that's the nature, truly, and
Yeah.
I'm a blockchain and fintech attorney, so that's truly the situation with every client with a major project that I've, advised, represented, or been involved in, for the last almost 6 years. It's just, that's the nature of the space right now, and, if people are scared off by the regulatory unclarity,
And
I would say just get out of blockchain, you're gonna hate it.
additionally, I think that it should be stated that in the Swiss regulatory sort of jurisdiction, we have been advised that by doing a non-custodial token sale, we are significantly reducing our risk factor. So there was a deliberate decision there in making this a non-custodial sale.
Yeah, and just to be clear, kind of the discretion around how you permission sales like this, especially where no one has said it's a security offering, and we're trying to avoid that as best we can. We've got some really top-notch experts advising us, and basically, it's discretionary. It's we want to make this accessible to people without having to give up their personal information if we don't have to collect it, right? And maybe you're right. Maybe there's a more restrictive way to do things, but at the end of the day, we can't kind of be the policeman of the world, and people have to take responsibility for what they're doing and whether it's compliant. It's just how it is.
Yeah, the uncertainty is killing not a lot of people, myself included, around many of these issues. Last question, and this is just for the record. You have mentioned that you have not been successful yet in finding a venture capital firm or any other funding source for the private sale that matches your ethos. Are there any available requirements for such a firm to participate in your sale, or an individual? And are they publicly available or upon request?
They're available upon request. This is something that we've had to consider as a team because, quite frankly, we need bootstrap funding to make sure that we can build the platform. It takes a lot of work to feed Riley and our other developers. So, we don't want them to starve. So we need to do that. And I'll just say this, the reason why we're entertaining the idea of taking a private round sale is because if there's a person who wants to purchase a significant amount of tokens, we want to be able to sell it to them without depriving the community of buying those tokens in the public round. And so we have that, 10% set aside for a private round as well. And it's just kind of a thing where we need to have a conversation with the person or the group who wants to purchase it. And then once we've had that conversation, we need to make sure that they line up with our ethos and that they are going to be good for us, good for Cardano, and good for the Summit platform. So that's kind of the requirement. There's no hard and fast rule of who it needs to be and how much it is, other than I would just say, a significant amount of ADA that they want to spend on the tokens. And that's
what would be significant?
Let's say let's say 20,000 or more. I'll just throw that out there.
Okay.
Are you a potential buyer, Zygomap? You sound very curious.
I just need to know, in case.
Right.
Well, 20,000 ADA or 20,000?
Yeah, and just
ADA, Adam?
I would prefer if we, let's if anyone's interested in that kind of thing, just contact someone offline.
Yeah. I
That's
might be
about.
shooting from the hip a little bit too much here. So let's talk offline. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you getting intimidated?
No, here, yeah. I mean,
no, here's the thing.
Here's the securities part. We just, we don't
Right.
We want to.
If we don't,
We're very,
right.
very careful, about compliance.
Right.
So
if we don't do this very, very carefully and we don't make sure we follow the right process, it could become a security sale. And we don't want to have that kind of uncertainty and problem. So we're not, I don't think we have exact numbers, but we just want to find out who's willing to support us, and we'll go from there. And it's something where it has to be somebody who's willing to contribute, to the ecosystem and isn't looking to hold them like as an investment. It's somebody who actually wants to use them to advance the ecosystem, because that's what these are. These are governance tokens for the platform, governance tokens for the association, and whoever holds these tokens is going to have a say in the way things are developed. And we feel really strongly about having the right people involved.
Yeah, and it's a lot more than money, right? Because we're prepared to launch this and grow this, whether we have any private investment or not. Having private investment sure helps expedite developing the robust DAO ecosystem that we're building. So that helps. We've turned down more than one VC that is interested in getting into the Cardano ecosystem, but it doesn't seem, a lot of these groups, I think if we could all review them privately, you don't want all these VC groups and guides coming in to kind of muddy up what we're doing here, and it's special, and we don't want to kind of be the group that lets the vultures in. So we want to be really, really mindful about, if we do accept private investment, that they bring a lot more to the table and believe in this mission and building out Cardano as an ecosystem, in addition to being able to provide capital, because, the capital part, I think, is replaceable, but really good partners that are strategic are not, and highly valuable.
Awesome.
Right,
Very interesting approach.
Sorry, Tiger, do you want to finish off, mate?
Well, that's about it. Just wanted to thank you for answering my queries.
Perfect. Thank you, both of you, for coming in and asking loads of great questions. I have one quickly for the Sermon team. So you've spoken a lot about the two kind of main parts that make up the DAO, governance and treasury management. But are you providing any extra services on top of that? Are you providing any kind of UI or front-end development or solutions? Or are there any other parts or services that you're offering?
Yeah, so we're not offering bespoke development at this time, and depending on the, I mean, if magically, we are granted with a bunch of money and we have a huge team of developers, then if we have extra development hands on deck, sure, why not, right? But at this time, that's not something that we really, I think, are too interested in. But we are going to be offering a number of services that are not directly DAO related, but may be helpful in auxiliary to a DAO. To give an example or two, we're definitely going to be making the Friccata dApp that's mentioned in the ADAO in the ADAO Catalyst proposal. We're going to be creating that dApp and open sourcing it, and also integrating it into Summon so that people can use it there. We're going to be open sourcing this non-custodial token sale system that we have been working on, and that's going to be integrated into the platform so that people can offer their own non-custodial token sales. And obviously, the terms and service there will be different than the terms and service throughout the rest of the platform, and we'll be cognizant of sort of the terms around usage of different parts of our platform. But all of this is predicated upon, again, sort of the non-custodial nature and the fact that we're not ever being the custodian of other groups' assets other than fees taken on the platform.
Yeah, and also it allows us to a certain degree allow
kind of these people-centric services as we kind of build up these things, and have advisors and ambassadors who come on. And
I think that's another thing we want to try to be able to provide as kind of the service at Summon Labs. We really value the diversity of thought and the inclusion of that. And we believe that through that and collaboration, that really kind of stems innovation. And so those are kind of the kind of other centric, people-centric services that we're kind of thinking about of the additional value that we can add.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that there are other things going on as well, because yeah, it gives you opportunities to make money as well, which I think having open source tools is great, but to be able to feed the treasury a little bit, having some kind of service that you can offer or some extra other solutions that you can sell or license, I think would be really good for you.
Feed the treasury.
So Riley,
you need to feed ourselves, Reese. I am hungry. Yeah. I'm going to go get some lunch here in a little bit. Sorry.
That's it for me. I don't really have any other questions. Everything that I thought to ask was covered by Terry and Zygo, so they've basically done everything for my work for me. TZT, do you have anything to add quick? Otherwise, we're going to move over to Dumpling.
Yeah, if we have the time, I was just going to ask you and anybody else in here, especially you, what it's kind of been like, because you yourself contributed to ADAO quite a bit, and still are contributing to both ADAO, Summon, and the whole ecosystem here on Cardano.
Sure, okay. Thank you for saying quite a bit. I feel like that overword is a little bit of an exaggeration of what I have done to help, in my opinion, but I'm more than happy to help. My experience has been fantastic. Like, I just joined the Discord one day, kind of on a bit of a whim, and next thing I knew, I was designing stuff for you. So yeah, it's been great. Like, I basically showed up. None of you guys knew who I was, as far as I know anyway. And I joined a meeting just to say hi. And next thing I know, we've got work underway. So it's been a really good experience with all of you guys and everyone in ADAO as well. I mention it actually quite regularly to anyone who's looking to get involved in it or contribute to Cardano in some way, because it's so easy to kind of come in with some ideas, have them actually listened to and thought over by some people who have generally thought about a lot of things very deeply. So I value your opinions, and you are very easy to work with. A couple of ideas come in, and we're then straight on it. And I'm really grateful for all of you guys, to be honest with you, without stroking your egos too much. But yeah, it's been a fantastic experience. So that's all I really have to say about it.
Yeah, I just want to give my 2 cents on something. What is it? You guys have a lot to navigate in terms of technology. What is it? Regulation and community. And I think you guys have taken a very thoughtful approach. I noticed reading through your literature and your discourse, the stuff that you're saying here aligns with what you've put out there as well. So and yeah, you guys genuinely seem to be pretty good people as well. Also, I would say, I guess I did ask earlier about will all the stuff be open sourced? And I guess when it comes to governance, transparency is very important. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out. But just keep the community updated, because I think they'll be following closely.
Yeah, and maybe I'll respond to that not only by saying thank you, obviously, but also I think that when it comes to the open source stuff, the kind of model that we want to take, we may not open source the front end, but instead just open source a variety of microservices that can serve as APIs, and anyone can run those microservices as need be, and then sort of, like I said, keep certain microservices proprietary for a certain amount of time, and then open source them after a certain amount of time that they've been live, right? And so kind of have that way of allowing for people to use whatever they'd like from the platform as time goes on, while still having some sort of competitive edge. And it'll probably be based on our cadence, right? So like whenever the next thing launches, we'll open source the previous thing. And I think that by kind of doing it that way, we can continue to push forward our mission and ethos, because this was all intended to be about sort of pushing forward open source and education in Cardano. And so I think continuing to be able to push that mission forward, and also make money off of it is definitely the goal here. Because if we can make money off of it, then we can continue to do it, and that's what we want to do. I mean, if we can't make money, then none of us can continue to do it. To be quite frank, if we don't make money, none of us can continue to do it, because we all, and maybe we would in like a limited capacity, but we're all in need of that.
You sound very hungry, Riley. I'm teasing you. Thank you, everybody. I definitely learned a lot from today's space about DAOs, regulations, and the Summon platform. So big thank you to your team, Riley, TCT, Tommy, Adam, and Black Doge DAO. Especially appreciate you guys for keeping up your standards and principles when it comes to VC funding. And Riley, you too mentioned something very pragmatic, which is being profitable and being able to feed the team. So you're both keeping up the pragmatic side and your standards. It's a fine balance, and I'm sure that's not easy. Good luck on your ISPO and later the token sale. And shout out to Terry and Zygomap. Great questions. No bullshit questions. You guys are like bullets. Just keep firing. And I feel Zygomap has the right vibe for the dungeon. Sometimes he makes those evil little pauses that makes me a bit nervous. What's he going to say next? And Riley needs to be fed before Twitter Spaces, otherwise he'll zone out.
One quick question. You have mentioned Big Pay and his project recently announced. I was under the impression that this would be a summon versus that kind of dumpling dungeon. Which, now looking at it, makes me a little sad. I wanted to see like a versus kind of thing. We haven't touched base on summon versus clarity here, and also now Big Pay's project. It's getting quite spicy indeed.
I'm actually super excited about Big Pay's project, and I'm excited for him to share more with the community. I obviously can't speak to it, but I can say that he and I have talked about it, and I'm excited for him to share more with people. I'm excited about Summon. I don't think that the two are necessarily going to be competitors with one another, and I think there could even be some sort of collaboration there, but I won't speak any more there. I want Big Pay to be able to speak to his own stuff, and maybe he'll do that right now. I see he just came up. With regards to clarity,
right on time.
Yeah. With regards to clarity, unfortunately, I don't see Logan or Justin in the room, but I think that Summon is being brought to you by a team that is going to continue to add and adapt beyond our initial product, regardless as to whether or not we are well funded. I think that we require less than probably 99% of teams when it comes to that. And so I think that our nature is probably going to be beneficial in the kind of market that we're in. I'll leave it at that and hand it over to Big Pay.
Things are getting pretty spicy with my new project, but I also want to mention that we're looking at it purely from a collaborative standpoint. I don't think in any way Summon and what I'm working on, will hurt each other. And fortunately, I've met these guys in person. We've done a podcast last week. I've met them in person, 5+ times, and we're looking at this purely as a collaborative effort to move this space forward and not looking at it from a competitive standpoint.
No, we're disappointed. We were waiting for a fight. I know Zygomap was excited for the chaos. Big Pay. But thanks for coming up. And Zygomap, I'll definitely invite you back to the dungeon. You are the right spice to this soup. Thank you everybody for joining today's space. Definitely learned a lot. Very entertaining as well. This Friday, we're going to talk to a stablecoin project. Mahan project. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. But they are apparently the experts in stablecoins. So join in this Friday to learn about that. Before we meet, take care and don't lose your seat race. See you later, guys.
Stake to ADAO.
No shilling. Oh, you pulled that one on me. Well done. I'm gonna have to add that to the terms of conditions next time.